About 13, 14 Earth years ago, you had this ridiculous combination on the stage. You had our sister, Rochelle Farrell, was performing, and she had Anita Baker and Layla Hathaway come on stage to sing with her. Do you have any idea what kind of beast mode you have to be to have Anita Baker take the mic and say, "Let me explain to you what this woman just did for the last minute or so while playing the piano"? Anita said, in not so many words, "I don't want that smoke." She said, "I'm not singing with her. In fact, I'm going to go over there and go dance." That's what Anita said. Anita Baker said that. Let me lay this out for you neat and tidy. Layla Hathaway, skills by the pound. She had no choice because her father Donnie Hathaway, skills by the pound. And these are the background vocalists for Rochelle Farrell. Without the Divine One, Sarah Vaughan, you do not have Chaka Khan, and you don't have Anita Baker. And by extension, you don't even have Layla Hathaway. Sarah Vaughan is the utter ridiculousness. Peace be upon that gift that we were allowed to have that walked this planet way before I got here, before any of us got here. She would go from contralto to first soprano, and her facial expressions wouldn't even change. I'm like, you could at least make it look hard. You could pretend it takes some issue. It takes some type of effort. No. Power, range, and a finesse. That is why she's called the Divine One, Sarah Vaughan. She is the dominant influence upon the likes of even Etta James to a degree, but more so Chaka Khan. Chaka Khan is literally the presence, the finesse, and the intonations of Sarah Vaughan, with the power and scat of both Sarah Vaughan and Ella Fitzgerald. But Chaka goes even further because she grew up listening to them, and she uses the phrasing of Billie Holiday. Again, she grew up listening to all three of these powerhouses. So when Chaka does songs like Don't Go to Strangers in honor of Etta, using Ella power and some of the intonations of Sarah, and when you hear Chaka Khan do End of an Affair, which is all Sarah and all Billie Holiday phrasing. So we have our sisters nowadays that some refer to as singers. And I'm like, they probably mean well. Most of them do a decent job. They are nowhere near the Divine One. Nowhere near Ella. Very few of them even use the techniques of Billie. And the material that they use is what it is. The best you can come up with nowadays is the heir to the throne of Her Majesty Aretha, who to this day, no one has touched that. 7 Earth years in a row getting the Grammy. The closest that you have to that now, breathing, good, bad, or indifferent, is Alicia Keys. Vocal style, not there. In combination of her vocal style and her ability to play the piano as well as she does, good, bad, or indifferent, you can't take anything away from Alicia Keys. She's as close as you're going to get to having anything real. We have our neo soul class. Don't get me wrong. There's some serious style out there. There's some serious talent out there. I give it to them, especially Jilly. I know some like Erica and a few others out there that do their thing. The Kiki this and the Kiki that, and this one and that one. All right. However, they are shadows at best. Some are well-intentioned. Let us see. She can bring it. Chaka Khan, again, embodies the 3. Anita Baker. I saw her in concert once, and she murked it. To be expected. Again, an acolyte of the Divine One, Sarah Vaughan. Compositions of all of her catalog compositions is the one that she really shines the hardest on, in my view, in terms of her influences. Very much Sarah-ish. Especially on her very first hit that she had. It was called Angel. And this is where Layla comes into play. Layla Hathaway, skills by the pound, by the truckload. She did a live version of Anita Baker's Angel. You hear when she does it, she has her own flavor to it. However, she only does it in spots to delineate that she is not Anita. She's her own flavor. However, the parts that were pure Anita are nothing more than the pure Sarah Vaughan. And I'm like, well, do tell. Do tell. The level of skill that these ladies have, and the off-the-chart skill of Rochelle Perel, who is just over here. Like Patty is like over here. And when Patti LaBelle kicks off her shoes at a concert, you know it's about to be raw dog up in there. These women, all of them in their own way, have helped to make a lot of babies. Because they put the music out that we men, we flow with. And then with our ladies, we flow with. And the babies come through. In organic diplomacy and governance, it's not style, it's substance. Like with the modern day singers are style lacking on the substance. You cannot lack on substance in organic diplomacy and governance. You have to bring the organic diplomacy governance equivalence to intonations, to range, to phrasing. You have to bring, again, diplomacy and governance equivalent unto that which causes the spirit to stir. Getting our folks to stir, to snap out of the daze, the delusion, from the illusion before them that keeps them as voluntary comatose, voluntary brain dead. To do that, you have to break through their programming, which is constant, non-stop propaganda. To do this, you have to get to a point where they at least hear you out. And that is so difficult to do in an era where there's so much misinformation and information and no knowledge. So much power with no control because they do not have knowledge and wisdom. You put flashy things before their eyes and they pounce. The newest fad. So, the paperwork fad. The next generation, the paperwork fad. The so-called strawman fad. The nationality without financial ability fad. If you don't have both, then you're going nowhere fast. And multiple generations have still not grasped this. Organic diplomacy and governance around a specific nationality is not a fad. It's not a toy. It's not a plaything. It's not something that you can turn on off like a light switch. There's no pause. There's no timeout. There is only the practical and the sensible that gets you a change in your reality. To change said reality, you must change how you think, act, and speak. And our kith and kindred across this planet, although they are starting to wake up a little, they have not gotten to the point where they are willing to change how they think, act, and speak. They're doing the same things repackaged. Sometimes they're doing the things that the colonizing hostiles do. So it doesn't matter if the hands that's doing it, if the brains that's thinking it, the mouth that's speaking, the hands that's doing it, and the feet that's walking it, doesn't matter if they're melanated like we are. If they're doing the same exact thing that keeps them in the same status quo of marginalization. If they're still maintaining the hegemony of the colonizing hostiles with the help of the melanated puppets that look like you and I. They look like you and I. They domicile in the same areas where our abodes are. However, their brains is literally default socially or Western socially engineered slop. And you can dress with the costume all you like. You can put on the garments all you like. You can wear all the feathers you want. You can wear all the feathers and turbans you want. If you are literally still with the propagandized mental slop, you change nothing. And you assist in the maintenance of the hegemony of the colonizing hostiles, the pigmentocracy generators, and their default benefactors, those that participate in their global Babylon system. And what our kith and kindred allow shall continue. So to participate in the stupidity is to fund and enable the stupidity. You cannot cry and complain about what you participate, enable, fund, and continue. Sometimes folks really have to decide, I really am the problem. When I say sometimes, I mean all of the time. Parties have to decide, they have to accept the truth that they are the problem. Either you are part of the solution or you are the problem. And most of our kith and kindred, they love the mental slop. And then there are the shiesty ones, the conscious community leaders, the religious leaders, the quote-unquote political leaders. Politics are for fools. If they knew what they were doing, your status quo would be different, but folks don't see that. Back in the day, someone would say something about some hip-hop lyrics from some cat from around the way, and I'm like, you clocking it? I'm not clocking it. I'm not jacking it. Oh, that was deep. What you just said was deep. I'm like, what part was deep? What are you talking about? If your lyrics are inside of someone else's crazy system and perpetuating the crazy inside of that particular system, there's nothing deep about that. What is deep is the level of cognitive dissonance. What is deep is the level of mental retardation that gets folks to say stuff like that. Did you actually form your lips to have those words come out of your mouth? Are you high, drunk, or stupid? Why would you embarrass your ancestors like that? Please stop. 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 Parties are going to do what they're going to do. They're grown. They're going to make their own decisions based on their own opinions, good, bad, or indifferent. What they don't get to do is to say that there is no viable alternative. That's an outright lie. What they don't get to do is say that because they got burned by some idiot in the so-called conscious community or some fool that is pushing some quote-unquote paperwork. So you're telling me that I do this paperwork and I get sovereignty? Really? So you're telling me if I index, which is under the United Nations mental retardation, which is you're telling me if I'm indexed, I'm registered, I'm on a quote-unquote do not detain list, which can be taken away at any given moment under National Security Directive. Again, the flashy things you put in folks' faces, when they do not have a grasp of discourse and international discourse, customary international and international law that undergirds it, well then you can run roughshod over these folks all day long. Most of our kith and kindred have a daily vocabulary spread of about 750 words. With a 2-year degree, they may have close to double that. With a 4-year degree, they have close to 2,500 words that they can call upon. With a master's, you only give them another 500 or so more. if you have a journalism degree from the strongest journalism university that they have in the foreign jurisdiction, you will have a mastery over about 7,500 different words. You can connote and denote over the heads of folks to their face, playing in their face, because they have no idea what you just said. Try that on an Amexem-Empire National, see how far it gets you. I train y'all. It does not end well. This is why we start you in training with vocabulary before we do anything else. We cannot discuss anything regarding any topic or any issue in any science or any field of endeavor. Not until we start with the base vocabulary of the Amexem-Empire Nationals, which is not to include the vocabulary that you get from whatever department or sub-department you are assigned to for your duty. It's a whole separate vocabulary altogether. And this is why, in conjunction with our 149 books of mandatory reading, we're able to engage in a wide variety of fields. And not with mere cursory knowledge. We can delve in. We can go in. Because this is what the ancestors fought for us to be able to do. And to fail in that. To consistently make sure that the next generations fall into the same space. You cannot equate of a man, you cannot equate of a woman. You are a failure. And you volunteer to be that when you don't have to.